Bye. Jane, we should be live. We should be live. Good morning.
Good morning.
I know. Hey, I'm here.
Yes.
This side of the camera can mean only one thing, can't it? She's not here.
She's gone away.
She's not here. How you doing, Jane?
I'm all right, thank you. Are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, not too bad. Little bit delicate. I had the big night out on Monday night with some
are you
friends.
still recovering?
Yeah, previous colleagues and friends, and yeah. Oh. Well, it was all paid for. Be rude not to drink it all. Oh dear. Beautiful.
Yes.
Cocktail night though.
Oh, lovely.
We had some lovely passion fruit martinis.
I bet you had some fabulous time.
Mm-hmm.
Was it lovely catching up with your friends?
It was really lovely. The less than 4 hours in the hotel room and probably about 2.5, 3 hours in bed, followed by a very busy day yesterday, was not so good.
No.
I was fine yesterday. I was fine. And today I think it's caught up.
Yeah,
I could do the little
jaded.
snooze. So I'm going to let you do a lot of today.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, you can be Bargelloing all over the place, and I'll have a little snooze in me wobbling corner over there,
Okay.
Hobbit in the corner.
You've got a quilt, you'll be fine.
I have.
You can snuggle down.
So put a quilt on me, I'll be fast asleep. I'm hoping lovely SJ's going to message in a minute and go, we can hear you, Gemma, we can hear you, and it's all fine. Just going to turn the sound off and pull my live up here.
You'll be all right as
Should
long as
all
you
be
don't
good.
start snoring.
I know. No, I can't start snoring. Oh, I can see us. I can see us. We're there, Jane. We're there. Hello, everyone. You can all see us.
morning.
This is good. Hey? Well, I hope everyone can. Auntie Lizzie Crangle's with us. She says, good
Lovely.
morning, lovely ladies all. And Chris Cresswell, she says, hi, Jane. Hi, Gemma.
Hi.
Oh, I can hear you, and you are all live.
Wonderful.
Not just a little bit live. All live.
Wonderful. That's what we want.
Good stuff. So, yeah, today's about Bargelloing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, for me, especially when you first showed me the original Bargello you did, which was this here, which will have a proper look in a bit. When you first showed this to me, I went, I couldn't do that. It's too complicated.
But you say that all the time, and I'm like,
Yes.
Gemma, yes, you can. I don't do complicated.
But we'll go through the whole technique today, and it's
Yes.
a simpler technique than the finished result suggests.
It's lovely because it makes it look like you've done a really complicated quilt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really rather simple.
With all the bits, lots of different sizes, and
Yeah.
and all very complicated piecing. There's a hack, isn't there? There's a trick.
Yes, of course.
There's always a
is.
trick.
Always
And if there's a
little bit of
trick,
stitchy
then you will
witchery.
treat us, trick or
Yes.
treat us with that trick, which is great. So yeah, looking forward to you doing a demo because you've done a different method with it this time.
It's
It's
exactly
exciting.
the same. I've just, when we get to the pattern and I show you the technique, I'll show you what I did to make it look different like it does.
Really versatile pattern
Yeah.
then, because both of these techniques come out of that same.
Yeah.
Well, both of these finished results come out of the same technique.
Absolutely.
Nice. But all sorts has been going on this week while I've not been around. There's been lovely ombres.
I just
Gorgeous.
thought when this arrived, I thought, oh gosh, you could do beautiful Bargello with these.
Yeah, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And they ombre across the bolt, don't they? So you've got the darker into the lighter, and then
Yeah. So if you
with-
used a strip of that, you get an ombre going through it as well as using your
Yeah.
different shades of colours. It'd look
And-
fabulous.
a beautiful multitude of colours available, which is stunning. There's 30, aren't there?
Yeah, and
I
we've got
think.
greens, oranges and
Yeah.
reds and greens as well, haven't we, that go through. I think they've been
They've been wombled away to
taken
cut for
off.
orders.
Yes, they've already been ordered.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Really, really beautiful. I do love it when my tech disappears
I
on the
don't think
screen.
they'll hang around long, to be honest.
No, I don't either. But I think for dressmaking, these would be stunning as well. What a gorgeous frock you could make yourself.
Oh yeah,
Summery
absolutely.
frock. We ought to just grab one, just so that people who haven't seen the show Monday, Tuesday can just see the beautiful metallic on them too, and how that ombre works. Because
It's stunning.
I mean, when I say people, I obviously mean me. Sorry,
'cause you
everyone,
weren't here,
if
were
you've all
you?
seen it, but they're just glorious. So
Let's just unwind a bit more and then you can see the full width of the
Yeah,
fabric.
yeah.
It's standard width fabric, so it's 44, 42 inches wide.
lovely.
But it
Right.
starts and ombres through the middle, paler, and then goes back to dark.
Yeah, and do you know what?
And
It
then it's
doesn't pick
got-
up on the camera enough.
No.
There's just a gorgeous clearness to the colours. This looks quite muted, but it's really got this impact, hasn't it?
And then
I
it's
don't know
got
whether it'll
these
show better on the
splodges
close-up.
of
Let's have a
metallic.
look. There we are. I think that's going to show better. Let me
Can I
pop the
put that
close-up
there?
view on, and then we can see.
Still not coming up.
Oh, it's not, because I pressed the switch button and it's still not done it. Come on now. Well, I think we're going to have to reload the tech because it's not doing it.
Oh dear.
You know, it's because she's not here.
This is what
it does
happens.
this for me. Let's have a go.
It's got like a paint splatter effect on it.
There we are. It's working now.
Now you can see it.
Lovely.
So you can see it goes dark on the edges and ombra's through to light and then goes back to dark again.
But with this glorious metallic sheen.
Can you see that metallic on there? It's like,
Again.
do you remember when you did it at school and you used to get the paintbrush and you used to just splatter it?
Lovely.
It's like that, which gives a beautiful effect and shimmer to it.
Really beautiful.
It's
Really
a
beautiful.
lovely gold metallic on there.
It's
Moda fabric, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, Moda fabric.
Yep.
So wonderful base cloth, good quality fabric.
Really nice.
Absolutely stunning.
Well, you know, we do like to have the lovely things here.
Well,
we don't
yes.
do rubbish, do we?
No.
I tell you what else we don't do. We don't do rubbish jerseys. And I noticed in the last couple of days while I've not been here, oh, these camera angles really aren't changing. Hello. Back now. I noticed as well while I've been, you know, absent for a day or two,
Yes.
that we've added to the bolt end sale, Jane.
Yes.
So for those of you who haven't seen the bolt end sale yet, we have been adding those skiddly bits that we've got at the end of a bolt. It started with Jane actually. She was cutting an order and there was a bit left on a bolt that was enough to back a quilt with, and she said, oh, I'm going to take this one home. And then just said, well, actually, there's probably quite a few people who just need that amount of fabric to do the back of a quilt or maybe have a go at dressmaking.
Yeah.
You know, just that
3
little bit of
metres or
fabric.
more is
Yeah.
probably 3 metres is a good
Yeah.
size piece to back a quilt, you know,
Absolutely.
like a single size, maybe a bit bigger. It's always handy. You
Yeah.
just seam it up the side, cut it into 2.5, one
That's
and a half
right.
pieces, and then you've got a nice piece of quilt backing.
That's right. So a couple of weeks ago, we listed some bolt ends, didn't we?
Yes.
And they disappeared really, really quickly. And then Natasha did her thing. She tashed the warehouse, didn't
gosh,
she?
yeah.
And whenever Tash tashes
You know
something,
the Tasmanian devil in the
is
cartoon?
just like that.
She's like that. She's like a whirlwind. And the next thing we know, we've got a great big stack, haven't we?
Yeah.
But
people come
they've
in
been
when they've been
flying
away
out.
for a day or two and they go, what happened? And we go, she tashed it. But she tashed the warehouse and pulled bolts that were perhaps, we hadn't got enough for a show or for a project out
Yeah,
of them.
exactly.
Because if they're sitting on our shelves, they're not in your homes backing your quilts and being able to be used by you. So we've offered some discounts, and they're really good discounts on these bolt end pieces.
they absolutely are.
Lovely big pieces of fabric, so you know you've got enough to work on a project. But the reason I mention it is not only have we got more of the cottons,
Yeah.
which are our fabulous, you know, backing fabrics, dressmaking, etc., but some jerseys have made their way in the last couple of days.
Oh,
Yes.
right.
I think it was yesterday actually, afternoon, SJ got loading the jerseys. Now, I think a lot of people have perhaps wanted to foray into some dressmaking, using some jersey, and having spoken to Jennifer Taylor and quite a few other people, they've said, once you get, Rachel Ilsley as well,
Yeah.
once you get past that initial fear of using jersey, you won't want to dressmake with anything else because it's easy, especially if you get a really beautiful quality jersey fabric.
Yes.
And that's what we have here. We have some Lewis and Irene, the Art Gallery fabrics jerseys.
Oh, they're pretty.
They're divine.
They are pretty.
And we have a discount on those. Oh, Ingly Dingly do. Gosh, love you, Inga. Thank you. She's brought some in to show.
Amazing.
So we have a few pieces here. Now, this one in particular, we've given it a good old choppy McChopperson, haven't we? Let's have a little look on the overhead.
We've got a nice selection in here. Again, they're just the last few bits on the bolts.
Yeah.
And of course,
Not enough for a show. I'm going to pop the overhead on so we can have a little look. Not enough for a show, but too good to just let sit on the shelf.
there's some beautiful soft, like Marley,
Yes.
like blues.
So these
Imagine
are a
making
more
like-
lighter weight, aren't they? They're
Yeah.
gorgeous t-shirts, t-shirt dresses.
Yeah, or like baby grow type.
Really nice for
things.
leggings and baby
Yeah.
grows and stuff like that for sure. The Lewis and Irene with the bunnies on is a particular favourite of mine.
Yeah, that's the art gallery
Oh, that's
one,
the
isn't
Art
it?
Gallery fabrics. Hey. You know, when Inga opened the door, then I thought, oh, have we lost sound?
Yeah, I was worried. I was like, oh no, what's happened?
No, she's just being helpful.
Yeah.
So we have This marl here, we have a pink marl as well. We've got a blue marl stripe, a pink marl stripe and a grey marl stripe.
There's the stripe.
And they're just lovely. These are the lighter weight, really, aren't they? So they're
more
like we say.
t-shirty and yeah,
really nice.
But lovely quality jerseys.
Absolutely. And for those who want to give it a go, Rachel's done a show for us before using the jersey to make the Sew Me Something Peas Blossom top.
Yes.
And that was an easy make.
Yeah, nice little t-shirt.
It has an unfinished neckline. It's like a cowl neck that drapes, and it just pops in. You don't even have to finish the edge. Yeah. Clever. Beautiful. And then these here are just that bit thicker, aren't they?
Yes.
But this one here, wow, I think the Art Gallery is the lighter weight one again, but just beautiful.
You could make jogging bottoms, couldn't you, with that?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So yes, don't say we don't spoil you. These have gone in at a very fabulous price. Gives everyone the opportunity to have a play.
It's clearing space in the warehouse as well, so that we can get more stuff in.
It is,
and rather nice.
But for dressmaking especially, I think the temptation, because especially when you're new to it, I made this mistake. You think, well, I don't want to use expensive fabric. I'll buy the more budget fabrics. Yeah. And then perhaps it doesn't come together as you'd have liked. You're disappointed with the finish. The minute you start using a more premium fabric, you get a nicer result. Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
Shouldn't be a surprise, should it? It makes sense. So for us to offer these at a reduced price, there's an opportunity there, isn't there?
Yeah.
To have a good go with something that is going to give you the best possible chance of success, I'd say.
Absolutely.
There we go.
So pretty,
Thank you,
that
Jane.
Fabric. It's lovely.
Shall we see who's here? I've spotted your mum's here.
Box?
Your mum's here. I wonder if mine is. Yes, please. That'd be lovely. Thank you, Jane. Jane Vivash says, morning, Jane and Gemma. Jenny Totterdale, morning, lovely ladies. Vicky's with us, of course. Hi, Vicky.
Morning, Vicky.
Vicky, who works full time. Yep, she's with us as well. Naughty Vicky, naughty. Heidi as well. Good morning, Heidi. Oh, here we go. What else have we got? Oh, yeah, your mum says, good morning from my sick bed.
Yeah, she's got COVID.
Oh, has she? My mum's just tested negative, but she's had another bout of COVID 3 times
This
now.
is the first time for my mum.
Oh, well
She's
done,
managed
Kate.
to avoid it so far, but she is proper poorly.
Oh, you poor love. I'm sorry. Get well soon, Kate. We're very sad to hear that you're poorly. Pam says, good morning, lovely ladies. Yes, Gemma, we can hear you. I'm really glad, because we're how many minutes in that? 12.
Yeah, a bit late now.
No, we don't need to have to repeat all of that. Good morning, everyone. Oh, Chris says, it does look complicated, but so effective. You wait and see. She's clever, this one. Oh, she says, I'm just dreading the cutting.
Oh, well, don't. No.
Don't. It's not like you're cutting lots of different skiddly diddly diddly bits. It's
it's quite a nice, straightforward way to do it.
I was surprised as well. Oh, and Elizabeth Crangle says, very true words, Jane makes very complicated achievable.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Jenny says she loved doing the other one. Oh, Colette says, morning, Gemma and Jane. How happy am I that you're doing this Bargello today? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. We're pleased. Lots and lots of love and saying good morning, which is great.
That's really nice.
This is so nice. Oh, and Claire Angelina says she's not falling for temptation. She's just packed all her fabric.
Yes, I saw her doing that. It was very organised, Claire.
I mean, public service announcement, you probably shouldn't watch the show then, because the temptation might take over. We know how it goes. You start the show and you say, I'm not buying this one, I'll just watch. Yeah. And then it comes together and you go, oh. Yes. And just to add temptation today, we have kits, which Jane will go through. I've thrown in a free pattern.
Oh, you cheeky thing.
She's not here. She's not here. So I've put the pattern in for free. She shouldn't do it, should she? She shouldn't leave it to me. No. Oh, Auntie Lizzie says, not that I need to know, but what's the magic trick Jane uses to read how much fabric is left on a bolt? Does she count the lines like you do on a tree? For the bolt ends, the bolt ends are more accurately measured than that.
We have taken them off the bolt and measured them properly.
And folded.
Generously.
The lines on the tree trick is how it works generally for us to know.
Yes. When we're doing a quick stock take, we just measure how many times it goes round.
Yeah. I think it's really important actually, because we've had people say before, oh, you should write on the end of the bolt how much fabric there is, and each time you cut a bit off, change the number. It's really important for me to say that actually when our fabric comes in, it goes through a completely computerised stock control system. It's all part of our online shop. I load up what we have. The reason we end up with these bolt ends is not because we don't know what stock we have. We do, it's computerised and we know what we've got.
We do.
But we will reduce the stock that's on a bolt to make, say, kits, for example, because we'll assign some of the stock to something else, and then another product and another product. And sometimes a fabric is used in several different projects. And then as those projects are taken down, we're always cautious to under-quantify what we've got, because we don't like to get into the situation, which happens rarely, where we have to email out and say, I'm really sorry you've ordered this and we don't have it. So that's how we end up with this extra that we don't know we've got. It's not that we don't actually keep a decent stock control inventory.
We do.
It's computerised and it's really, But Tash doesn't get involved in that bit, so she might have explained it before. But we have had people, bless you, emailing in before now saying, could you just write the amount on the end of the bolt and then adjust it? We don't need to. Most of the time we know exactly where we are.
And we have a lot of cutting to do, so it's not...
Huge.
It's not a good use of our time to keep stopping and changing quantities on the end of a bolt. So we know how much is on the bolt, we load that, but then as Gemma says, sometimes it gets used in kits and it's not always the full unit either. So that can change things. So,
exactly. So our system runs by the half metre. So if a kit takes 3/4 of a metre and, you know, we're making an odd number of kits that don't end up being a full, however many half a metre units, then we have to reduce by more.
Yeah.
Or we'll have to reduce by a metre if we're using 60 centimetres sometimes. That's where it comes from. Just for those that are interested, and I know that there are those of you that are.
You may have all fallen asleep by now, but
I know. We'll talk about something more interesting for the rest of the show, I promise. Kirsty's made my day. She says, the bunnies are mine.
Oh, bless her.
They're great.
They'll go to a good
They're
home.
great. You enjoy those. Philippa says, good morning. I'm just watching this morning. Winking face.
Yes.
Always just watching.
We always just watch.
Always just watching.
Yeah.
The pattern's worth $7.99. Just saying. And my mother's watching, who's now recovered. So Kate, have hope. My mum was really poorly as well and she's feeling lots better. So that's great. Claire Angelina says that our stock management system is the opposite of overbooking a flight and not everyone shows up. No, this is very true.
Yes.
This is very true. We just don't like people to be disappointed, so we end up with extra fabric we didn't know we had, really. Also, what we've got, half metre heavens.
There's some lovely ones in there.
Yeah. When do these go live, Jane?
Midnight tonight.
They do. Midnight tonight, like they always do. I think we'll go overhead, shall we, and have a closer look at these.
Let's do that.
The first one here's got my eye twitching. Have we cut all these already?
Yes.
Oh, heck. I love this fabric. This is Lewis and Irene.
It's beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful. Lewis and Irene Hibiscus Hummingbird. It is a beauty. Look. Isn't it gorgeous?
It's vibrant, isn't it? Absolutely. With the tropical flowers and the hummingbirds, it's got
I especially like it in this colourway.
Yeah.
I love that darkness there. And did you and Natasha choose these together, or what's gone on while I've been off?
Natasha chose these.
Oh, you see. She's got an eye for colour.
She got a whole pile of them ready to go.
Of course she had.
Because she's been very organised
She
this week.
tashed the warehouse again. Yeah.
She's been really organised this week because she's got so much on.
She has. She's got an awful lot on. So, you know,
That's
you've
our
got us
sunshine
today.
yellow with that one.
Is it?
Beautiful.
It's corn yellow.
Corn yellow,
Corn
sorry.
yellow. Yeah. There we are. Love a bit of corn yellow. It's beautiful, isn't it? How many have got those? 7.
Yeah, there's not
Seven's
many
not
of some
a lot.
of them.
Not a lot.
Not many at
Hey,
all.
I'm going to open this one out big, so have a good old peep at this. This is more hummingbirds, but I just kind of want to open it out big and then we can see next to the other one.
That's really
the
pretty.
size of these hummingbirds. So you've got little hummingbirds. You can see smaller than these.
Yeah.
Really pretty. This would make a beautiful little, you know, pillowcase dress, something like that, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, wouldn't it?
I'll be honest as well, I quite like the idea of having this as a lining if you wanted something plain and have a little cheeky bit of hummingbirds
Pretty
inside.
lining inside.
But a really nice size for quilting, isn't it? Because your blocks, when you cut them out,
Yeah, you could have fun fussy cutting these. Can you imagine your hexagons where you have a hummingbird
Gorgeous.
in each hexagon?
be brilliant for EPP, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You should put that with pomegranate.
It's lovely. It really picks up look on the wings of these ones.
Totally does.
Beautiful.
Totally does. Gorgeous, gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Hey, I can't believe there's any of this next one I'm going to show you left, because it went phenomenally well.
Yeah, there's
Now,
not many.
Those of you who did Natasha's round-handled bag will recognise this fella. This is called Mystery Food, which I don't think would necessarily go down too well with Jane as a vegetarian, but the rest of us did chuckle at the name. But Mystery Food.
It's got the beautiful gold metallic legs on it, so it's got a real depth of colour and intrigue to it.
It has. I'm not entirely sure as that metallic gets shown off to its full advantage, so let's go close up and give it a wave.
Mum will have to look away.
There we are.
Because she doesn't like octopuses.
Oh no. Is it octopuses? Is it octopi? What is it?
I
go
think
down, Jane, and then back up again. I think as you first lifted, the colour kind of shone.
Yeah, and it's octopuses. Look, if you do that with it,
you can there see
we
it
are.
there.
Look, you can see the shimmer.
Just needed a bit of something behind it. Look at that.
It make a really cool bag, and we've got it with the black, so it's very classic. Oh, we haven't gone overhead again.
Oh.
Get a lovely picture of my arms.
That's all right.
Not the best picture.
Ah, behave.
There we go.
Lovely arms. It's all good.
So that's with the black. Which is rather lovely.
Chris says, "Oh, we have to wait up till midnight. I'll stay up, lol." Yes, we do with the half metre heavens.
Joke, Chris, but there are people that do.
No, do you know? Again, public service announcement. It's important to say there are those of you every week who I watch diligently stay up till midnight and get in there.
Yeah,
the order's in by 3 minutes past midnight.
Because again, these are the last few bits on the bolt that we use, don't we, to just clear the bolt ends.
Yeah,
give you a bargain with the plane, and we match the planes so that you can.
We do.
Because sometimes it's hard, isn't it, when you're looking on a computer screen to get the colour just
exactly
right.
that. And this is how the half metre heavens was born. Really, is we have a really lovely big collection of planes. We've got a really good arrangement of planes there. Yeah. But you can't necessarily tell which is going to be right. And for those of you who order a fabric and want to order a matching plane, I know many of you have got the trick now of popping in the notes to say, can you check this blue that I've ordered goes well with the patterned fabric that I've ordered, and can you swap it if there's a better one?
Hate doing, it's a really
hate
tedious job, and we really don't like it.
And we do it, we'll very happily do it for you. So yeah, that's absolutely where it came in, is Natasha decided to offer these fabrics with their complementary plane. And there's quite a few other people in the industry doing that now,
Yeah, it's funny that.
I know, the imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Absolutely.
But sometimes as well, Natasha pops a contrast in there, and it's something that just makes that fabric pop.
Yes.
She's got a beautiful eye for it, and she does it better than any of us, annoyingly. So let's go into the overhead and have a look at this, because it's one of our faves.
Beautiful piece of Morris & Co. Strawberry Thief, and we put it with our misty blue, which isn't blue, unless you put it next to a blue.
Green, grey, blue.
Yeah, it's a magic fabric. This is. It's
a
magic fabric. It goes with quite a lot of things.
It does.
But it sets off the Morris absolutely beautifully. A real classic.
It does. We have had this one up before in Half Metre Heaven, this Thameside fabric, and she put it with, I think it was the paprika.
Yeah, and it really popped these colours.
Absolutely beautiful. So for those of you who bought that one, realised how gorgeous it was and wanted something else to go with, possibly with a blender fabric to quilt with, this would be a really good buy.
Yeah.
And that's it then. Once it's gone, it's gone. And the Strawberry Thief is a classic print, isn't it? It's one of those that
doesn't go out of fashion, does it?
Forever popular. But the colourways come in, they go out, and this, once it's gone, guys. That's all I've got to say. There was only 5 of those, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
only
really
5.
is the last bit.
Only 5. Hey, look at this one.
Now, this is our Tilda.
Chic Escape.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Now, we haven't got many pieces of this. This really is the last. Our customers loved it, and they really did buy the majority of it, so there isn't very many pieces left, and Natasha's put this with some lovely planes that if you bought all of them would go absolutely fabulously together.
No, absolutely. And we have a really nice selection of Tilda solids as well at the moment that would go beautifully with this if you wanted to add, if you were going to make a quilt. We also have other fabrics in the Chic Escape collection that we haven't Half Metre Heavened yet, that you can get by the Half Metre. It'd be nice to be able to buy some of those to go with. But there's options there. Having said that, look at that lovely plain with it.
Yeah, that's our teal.
And that's from our...
And that really...
100%
it's
cotton
slightly
plain
darker
range.
than the background, but it is the same colour tone, so it really sets it off.
Absolutely, and if you'd have gone with the same colour, it would have just disappeared in there. But that depth of colour, if you were quilting...
and makes the pinks pop, which is stunning.
I love these. I think these would make a really beautiful appliqué piece.
Absolutely,
Really gorgeous. Oh, I love them all this week, Jane. It's so painful.
Well,
I'm going to end up like little Izzy. Lovely little Izzy who's come to work with us.
She's got her own...
She gets upset. She can't say goodbye to someone. She gets quite upset, doesn't she?
Yes.
What else would go beautifully with this? Here we go. Vase collection.
This is from the same green teals, so it's the same, you can see it's the same green on there.
Yeah, vase collection. This has been phenomenally popular in all colourways, this one, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And you can see why.
It's a nice, calm, classic print, I think. And we've put it with our natural seeded.
We have.
It still looks rather nice with the teal.
Doesn't it just?
So that's lovely. There is actually only one piece of this.
And say that would be winking at me. If I was buying that, I'd be having to have this one as well.
Yeah.
Hey. You better keep those there, Jane, because we've got a good old selection of beautiful things, including, well, who doesn't love a peacock, eh?
This one is
no one I know or are friends with. Hey, look at this.
This is lovely fabric. Look at that. And again, it's from the same teal greens, so it blends beautifully.
Yeah, really lovely.
These ones are the end of the bulk, but we have actually got more of this by the ½ metre. Because Natasha knew that this would be a popular one, so we've still got some of this available.
Oh, she's a sucker for a peacock as well. She doubled up on all of those.
Loves it. She loves it.
It's almost like she was shopping for herself. This one, look at this.
That's just called pink.
Yep. Pretty in pink.
Look at that.
I mean, it's almost like you're planning a quilt here, Jane.
Well, you never know, do you? This is lovely.
Oh no, I'm going to have to mute. There's a sneeze coming.
Oh no.
It's wafting these fibres about here and there. No, it's not.
No.
I've held it in, Jane. I've internalised it. It's gone. Oh my word. I tell you, there's nothing worse than thinking I'm about to sneeze really loudly down a microphone and deafen everybody.
Deafen everyone. This one is my absolute favourite.
Oh, we'll go around this way because I think that's upside down.
I just think it's,
isn't it?
You know, shabby
Pretty,
chic,
delicate.
Wild
garden this is, isn't it?
Yeah,
wild garden.
Yeah.
And it's gone with our coral,
which picks up these pinks and the roses beautifully. Really does. It's a lovely tone, but again, with those plains, you can see it building up there.
It's a stunner.
It's gorgeous.
It's a stunner.
Absolutely lovely.
Oh, poor Chris. She says, I can't resist these ½ metre heavens, such great value and gorgeous fabrics.
Absolutely.
That's what it's
they
about.
Really are. And again, you know, it's a nice way of getting a collection with some plains that complement it. You know.
Oh, poor Julia says, I sometimes manage to stay up until 11:30.
Oh,
that's like me on New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
I get to 10 minutes to midnight and wake up. I do. I get to about 10 minutes to midnight and wake up at 1:15 or 5 minutes past.
All over.
And then Guy goes, yeah, you missed it. I did try and keep you awake, but you missed it. Not funny, is it?
No.
Look at this.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
So, Jane, did you take one of these, each of these for yourself? Why am I not
might have
surprised?
done.
Yeah, this is Whimsy Flower.
I love this colourway. I think this colourway is lovely. This one and the blue.
Whimsy Flower green. And we've gone deeper again on this one. This is Sangria.
Sangria. That's one of our new colours because they recently brought out a new set, didn't they?
They did.
Look at that.
Not showing off, but nice that.
Works.
Look
you
what
see
we've
the
got.
teal in there. There's teals.
Yeah.
Pick out these lovely minty greens in there. So it works beautifully. All of those colours just set the fabrics off wonderfully.
They do.
You get
Absolutely they do.
a lovely, good size quilt from that.
Yeah, really good.
Really lovely.
Really good. Oh, Philippa Winter loves the Morris. She says the colour's amazing.
Yeah, it is a beautiful one.
And Jojo says, are we ready for some stitchy witchiness? Will Facebook ban me for saying the W word? No, it doesn't look like it.
I don't think it minds a bit of witchiness,
No.
does it?
I mean, some of the things we've said, no, it's got cross about. But,
Yes.
no.
We've just got Lo back. I don't know if she's with us today.
Oh, I'll have a look in a minute.
she
John
was
is, though.
Is he?
JCM, yep. He says,
Lovely.
Gemma, with lots of R's, and Jane, with lots of E's. Woohoo, nice surprise for my Wednesday. Hello, ladies. Hello, John.
Hi, I was watching
John.
John yesterday and got tempted by his sale.
Oh, Johnny likes
He's
a
got a
good
new
sale, doesn't
collection
he?
of Aurifil threads. Well, you know,
I know. He's going to be bringing some
rude.
Aurifil threads to us.
rude
Yeah.
not to.
I love an Aurifil thread.
It's got some beautiful
Beautiful
autumnal
thread
colours.
boxes.
Yeah.
I've
It's the
seen them. I
boxes.
saw them a little while
I'm
ago.
going to say you've probably
I'll let
been
you
in
lay
the-
those out while we read some messages. That'd be
This
lovely.
is the last bit of the linen cottage, is it called?
Yeah, cottage linen.
I did a quilt with this, so this is the last few pieces of this, and we've put it with coral again.
There we go.
There's actually only 2 pieces of that left.
That's lovely,
but the
isn't
coral
it?
just picks up this lovely deep
Just
rose
classically
print.
pretty, isn't it?
We've still got some of the cottage linen in the other prints available by the half metre, which complement this beautifully.
And we've got some of there's a softer, paler version as well. We've got that. That one's called linen white or something, isn't it?
Which isn't white at all.
No,
it's pale.
Just pale.
Yeah. You put white next to it, it looks quite odd.
I do love it when they do this. Now this, for my money, needs to be a beach bag.
Absolutely. Stunning with the flamingos. I love this.
This is Dina designed. It's from the Chinoiserie Chic collection.
Yeah.
Paradise Pink. There we go. With
a bit of sky, which just picks up these little bits of
Oh, I love how it's
turquoise.
written Chinoiserie. Oh, a terrible spelling that was. Dear me, Facebook. Was my accent that far off that's how you've typed it? So yes, all of those are beautiful. They also go live at midnight. So fill your boots, everyone.
Yeah.
I look forward. I'm such a nosy woman. I really am. I love to see who buys what. They come up on the orders and I'm like, oh, she's got that one. I bet she'll make this.
Yes.
And we are nosy.
Well, yes, and we like to see when we're putting the orders together as well. It's lovely to see the combinations that customers choose, and you're like, oh, I like those colours together.
Sure. Our Inga especially loves seeing what people have made as well, because she's in the warehouse and she's cutting those fabrics, she's packing those fabrics. So for her, when someone does send us, you know, this is what I've made, or upload it to Community Makes,
really lovely.
She really loves it.
Yeah,
she really does.
It's really nice to see what happens to it after we've sent it out.
Oh, Elizabeth Krangle doesn't think I would deafen anyone with a pixie sneeze. I totally
You've not
would.
Heard it
I
sneeze.
totally would. I did sneeze just before the show as well. Poor Jane jumped.
Well, such a little person. It's a big, big sneeze.
And it's ever so squeaky. Ever so squeaky. Oh, Jenny's loving the selection of plains as well. I think she means those Tilda ones. They looked great together, didn't they?
Yeah.
Really, really beautiful. But yes. Oh, now, do you know what we've got here? This is a very important thing here. Sometimes I feel that we go beyond a demonstration and provide some kind of therapy to someone who's perhaps had a not great experience of making something, and we can fix that for them, Jane.
Yes,
We can.
We do our best.
And today that's Joy Hall. She says, good morning, Gemma and Jane. I tried Bargello and got totally confused. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it ought to be done. No pressure, Jane.
Yeah.
No pressure, Jane.
We'll try our best.
We've got 2 colourways on this, haven't we?
Yes.
Two
beautiful
colourways. And a fantastic pattern. Shall I go in the overhead and you can show everybody what it is? I might shimmy off into the corner in a sec, you know, my little hobbit corner.
Lovely.
Go and have a sit.
So this is your pattern. This was made when we did the original colourway, but the principle is the same. Nice pictures, and there's the cutting table. You do 2 blocks, and that's the cutting grid for you, and we unpick. So we'll go through the process and you'll see how it works. It'll make more sense.
Not scary, Jane, is it?
No, not at all. So your kits have got enough fabric to do this quilt with the extra borders. If you wanted to do the one I've done that's got no extra borders, the new colourway, I've just bound it. You could add the borders on in the same way if you wanted to. So you could add a border and then put a strip of the existing fabric, or you could just bind it like this. You'd have some extra fabrics left over. So that's entirely up to you, but what we've done is we've given you the kit so that you can make it in this style if you wish to.
Choices, Jane. Choices.
We like to give people choices.
Lovely.
So if I go through the kits, we've got some lovely Moda Wildflower, and then some Moda Paisley Rose, which I think is rather stunning.
Oh, Crystal Manning did a nice job of that one, didn't she?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Right, so the first kit, which is the one that I've made the sample in that's behind me, has got the wildflower fabrics in. We've done a strip of red, and then we've got blues, paler blues, running into the deeper blues, going through. So it's given you sort of like an ombre of colour. The order you put it in is totally down to you. the order you can see is the order I've used it in to make the Bargello.
Good to refer back to. Well done, Jane.
So you can see, but this wildflower fabric is just so pretty. But it's enough, it's a small enough design that you don't lose the effect in the Bargello. Sometimes when you get a big fabric with a big bold print, it can look strange in Bargello because you'll get like different, because you make quite small pieces, you get different effects. So, but this is a nice small print that won't lose its colour, if that makes sense, while you're doing it. So you've got some tone on tone plain, sort of plains there, but then you've got the little ditzy prints with the blue bonnets in.
Lovely.
And the wildflowers in the reds, in the paler blues, royal blues, and then what they call indigo, which is a deeper blue. And I've put, for the borders on this, I've chosen our chartreuse.
Oh, I love
just because I felt that pulled the green that's in all the prints.
It does,
just
beautifully.
Lifts it slightly. I did look at the blues, but then if you put a blue with it, it draws the blues, and so you lose the tones within it. So I thought that just lifts it slightly and pulls all of the fabrics together. So that's why we've gone with the chartreuse with that. You get 1.25 meters, 1.25 meters of the plain. You're getting slightly more than a long quarter here. It's 30 centimeters, just under, I think it is just under or just over 12 inches. Yeah. The reason I've done that is because as much as we love to cut it as straight as possible, if it's not on the bolt straight, when you come to line it up to get your straight of grain, you can lose, sometimes you can lose up to 1/2 inch either side if you're trying to get it straight, so you've got your straight of grain. So we've just given you a little bit extra, because if you cut it the way that I've described in the pattern, you would need a long quarter. Well, if that's not cut straight, you're not going to get your 4 strips out of a long quarter, which is why we've cut them just that little bit bigger, so you've got that room for manoeuvre.
Perfect, Jane.
Because we like to be kind.
Oh, Claire Angelina says that bundle is beautiful on its own, let alone in a Bargello.
Well, this is it. You've got a nice bundle of fabric there to make a kit, a quilt with, of any style that you want to make.
And you've got
you could just make it into squares. You've got 10 fabrics.
strips, they're bigger than long quarters, each of them. And you've got a big old chunk of plain there and a pattern.
Yeah. So it's
phenomenal value.
Like more than 2.5 meters, probably nearly 3 meters there. So the paisley rose, again, I've gone with a semi-ombre. We've gone with the darker blues, going into those lovely tealy turquoisey blues. There's a nice bold rose print in here, but again, it doesn't lose its effect when you cut it into pieces. It's still, you can still see the roses. And we've taken it through those paisleys and then back into the mustardy yellow rose that's got the pink.
Gorgeous.
So
and I like the boho feel of this one, of course.
Yes,
I mean, that'll come as a total shock to everybody, won't it?
Yeah, we can't imagine why you would have boho. Yes.
Oh, Chris is asking, do these go on sale at midnight too, Gemma? No, Chris, these kits are available now. So I think SJ's popped a link up to today's collection. I shall have a little peep and check if she's done that one.
And I've gone with hot tomato as the contrast for the borders with this, just because it just draws the pinks and the oranges out. And there's a little bit of pink and orange in most of the fabrics, and I felt that that was a good contrast with those.
Jane, just to clarify, so Chris, I know it's hard to choose. I know. Sorry, not sorry. They're beautiful. We've made them too difficult to choose between. But Philippa, yes. So your $57.99 today includes a free pattton. She's not here.
Yes, because we don't normally put the pattern in with the kit, because some people do like to have more than one kit. So we feel that's just a waste of paper and your money to have a paper pattern in there.
Yeah. However, this pattern was made before, budgeted before. I've not had to pay for graphics on this month, so I took a decision that we were going to offer a free pattern just because.
So if you want both kits, you'll get 2 patterns, but you can always share it with a friend.
Yeah, gift one, absolutely, because it's a great technique and something that you can really enjoy. Oh, listen, Philippa says, woohoo, what a scoop. Yes, just don't shout about it too loud, and that Natasha will not notice. Natasha. I'm not being horribly reckless. I do have the purse strings and I've worked it all out and it's fine.
Yes.
It's
I
fine.
was going to say, Gemma
she doesn't mind a little spoiling every now and again. She trusts me.
Natasha won't be bankrupt. We'll be fine.
Oh, my daughter's watching. Good morning, Meg.
Hi, Meg.
Yeah, good morning.
Right, so you'll get your fabrics and you need to decide the order that you'd like them in. As I say, I've put mine in an ombre. We're going to do our demonstration with the Paisley Rose. I've put mine in ombre, going from dark through to what I consider to be light. So I've gone from the dark, the very dark there, going
Beautiful.
through, matching the fabrics through.
Lovely.
Now you might say, well, that's a dark one, but actually it pulls the oranges and the pinks together. So I put that one there, going through. Now when you make Bargello, you sew your strips, you're going to cut it into strips, and then you sew it into a tube. So this fabric here, the dark fabric, will ultimately be against that one, which is why I chose that one to be the end one, because it pulls the pinks and the oranges in. There is a method to my madness.
No, it's fabulous. It makes
so these are
perfect
things
sense.
you need to consider when you're deciding on your order, because you might decide that you might want to have your pinks and your oranges in the middle with the teal on one side and your indigos there. And again, that will work because this one will sit nicely against there. The beauty of this is these fabrics are all from the same collection, so they do go nicely together. You can do a rainbow of plains, and that works as well. That can give you a really nice effect. When we did the cave one, we chose sort of like a rainbow of cave colours, of the ditzy prints of the cave. We don't have many of those fabrics now, do we? So we're not able to do this kit again. But you can see it's like a rainbow, so it goes from red through to oranges and greens, blues, and then into the purples. So a rainbow looks really nice in this collection.
Absolutely. Jane, we have a message from from Dawn. She says, "Morning, Natasha. Fabulous fabric. Love Wednesdays with you." And then says, "Sorry, and Jane, no, and not Natasha." So Natasha's fine. Don't worry, because she said, "Oh, what's happened to Natasha?" No,
she's here. Don't worry.
She's substituted herself with me, who she lovingly refers to as her mini doppelganger / evil mini twin. I'm like mini-me in the Austin Powers movies. She's busy. She's a very busy girl. She's got moving to do and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I'm going to say, if you were listening to the show yesterday, she explains exactly where she is and what she's up to.
So she's left the show in my not entirely reckless hands, and I've popped a free pattern in with today's kit. Oh no. So Chris Creswell says, it doesn't just have to go to dark to light then with the Bargello, so long as there's a flow to it, so you can twiddle with that.
It's completely how you want it to be.
Lovely.
You know, you need to have, you don't need to have anything really. If you like the fabrics together and you like the way they go, then do it. You need 10 fabrics.
Well, you can rainbow as well, can't you?
Yeah,
as demonstrated behind you.
The ombre of blues and greens, or even this colour.
Yes. Gosh, that'd be
would look stunning.
Gorgeous.
And the fact that you've got an ombre going through that would give it another dimension. So it would go, not only would it ombre from darks to lights, it would also ombre throughout the whole thing, because you use strips of fabric from the width of the fabric. And I cut my strips at 2.5 inches, all my strips. So from each of your fabrics, you need to cut 4 2.5 inch strips.
Yeah, which is easy to do because we've
straightforward. If you've got your stripology ruler,
yeah,
it's a breeze. Take you minutes. I'm going to sneeze now, I think.
No, it's fine. While you sneeze,
fabrics,
you know.
Have a drink, and that might stop
and she can't mute herself because her mic's behind her.
I have to do some sort of contortion.
Do I need to run over and flick the switch?
I'm okay.
Do you need
gone.
tissue?
Oh,
do you know, we said it earlier, didn't we? We're always just watching, and then, oh dearie me, can't help yourself.
Falls into your basket.
Philippa says, in capitals, I said I was just watching. Oh no, I've bought the kit.
Yeah.
And then people have said, well, and she says, don't congratulate me. We will anyway, because you've got a lovely kit coming to you.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So you've got your strips. I suggest that once you've decided on your colour order, you number them from 1 to 10. It will help you in the long run, particularly if you've
Jane.
never tried Bargello before. It will help you keep them in the right order. You're now going to sew them together in pairs.
Lovely.
And press the seam to one side. It doesn't matter which side you do it, but press them all to the same side.
Yes.
I've pressed mine to the left.
Okay.
So it's a straightforward, sew it into pairs, right sides together, 1/4 inch seam, and then press it. Now those pairs all need to have the seam going the same way. You will then sew the pairs together into 4s. Now if you started, what I did when I was pairing mine up is I paired the same selvage up at the top, so that I got them going the same way. It helps me as a reference.
Yeah.
So I've sewn from the top to the bottom on these ones. So when you get the pairs together, you need to sew from the opposite end.
Perfect.
That's another good reference. So what
Top
you would,
tips, Jane.
this prevents your strips, what we call bananaing. If you sew everything from the same way, it starts to develop a curve.
Oh, beautiful. That's not what you need, is
So
it?
you don't really want that. So
No.
sew from the top to the bottom on the 2 pairs, and then when you sew the pairs together, sew from the bottom to the top.
Marvellous.
It's not essential. You can press it out, but it does help in the long run.
No, brilliant.
So you'll sew those 2 together and those 2 together. So you've got 2 sets of 4, and then you'll add that one onto the end of your, so you've got a 6, and then you join those together.
Chris says, I hope there's lots of kits because I don't want to stop watching. I've tried to do as many kits as I can, but I can see there's a lot of popularity to this make. So I'm not promising anything, but fingers crossed for you, Chris.
So you will end up
you
with...
just need a second device. One to watch the show,
yes,
and the other one to log on and do your order. I think a lot of people have got to that now.
Some people watch on their phone, don't they, or the television, and then have their laptop ready to
absolutely,
order.
or phone or whatever. Claire Angelina says, of all the quilt demos I've watched, Bargello is my favourite. Elizabeth Crangle says that the swirly one behind you, the wildflowers option, reminds her of a flower field from above.
Yes, it's lovely, isn't it?
Janet is saying, what's the kit called on the website, please? Janet, we've popped a link to the collection, but if you go to our Watch Live page and you scroll down and click all on the tab there to show all of the products for today, you'll see it's the Bargello quilt. So it says kit with free instructions, Bargello quilt, and then we have the Moda Wildflowers Blues Reds option and the Crystal Manning for Moda Paisley Rose Teal Orange options.
But if they go to the search bar at the top, if they just put Bargello in, will it come up?
Oh, yeah, it should do, absolutely.
Yeah.
Although the spelling of Bargello, as I've seen, can vary when people are typing it in the website. So
now the thing I've just admitted to say, when you join your pairs together, you've got the seams going one way. When you join the pairs together, press the seam the opposite way.
Okay.
So this is what it will look like on the back. So you've got seams going in, seams going out, in, out. Now, this will really help you further on when you come to put the pieces together. You might think, well, this is just,
all over the place.
Why am I doing this? Why am I taking the time to do this? But actually, it will help you in the long run. So you're going to end up with 4 strip sets like this, with your fabrics in your desired layout, making sure they're all exactly the same. It's important that they are all exactly the same, otherwise you're going to get a different effect, which you might like, but you might find quite upsetting if you look at it and find you've got one of your fabrics transposed or something in a different place. Once you've done this, you're going to place fabric 10 against fabric 1 and make a tube. Now before you do that, just line it up, because you may find it's no good lining up all the salvages at the top in a row, because you may find it twists it. And if I show you how I've lined those 2 salvages up here, can you see what's happening down here?
Oh, yeah.
It's twisting. So all I need to do is just lift that salvage up that end to make sure that it's nice and straight.
So you're matching the edges of your strips.
The edges so that it doesn't twist.
Gotcha. So you want.
And if you look at that now, hopefully, it's straight. If I put it edge salvage to salvage, I don't know if you can see the twist appearing there.
I see.
So that's quite important, because that will help you in the next stage of cutting.
Gotcha.
So I'm just going to run a seam up here now, 1/4 inch, to join this into a tube.
Lovely. Thank you, Jane.
There's a lot of sewing in this.
Tips.
The pressing and the sewing takes quite a while. Once you've got this bit out, which is quite monotonous, I'm not going to lie, it's quite good fun.
Brilliant. Philippa says she's a pro. She watches on one device and purchases on the other. And Auntie Lizzie says, well, that's why things fall into your basket then, Philippa.
Yes, it's true.
They fall out of the TV and into your basket.
Yeah.
They just do. Lisa Taylor says, oh, that's clever with the seams. It is, and it's not something that you necessarily think of. So thank you for sharing that, Jane, because it's clearly somewhere you could slip up with this technique.
Well, it just helps you because you will notice that in the pattern there are quite some small pieces, and so if you've got that seam going opposite directions, it really does help.
That's what I love about your demos, Jane. You get all those extra little tips and tricks, and it just it simplifies something that people can be overwhelmed by, which is great.
Absolutely. And we really don't want you struggling.
No.
There's nothing worse than getting a pattern and not really quite understanding, or the people that have written the pattern have expected you to understand and know.
I think there can be, in sewing patterns in general, I think there can be an awful lot of assumed knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we really try here not to do that.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of great feedback from beginners saying thank you so much, because actually I didn't have to sit there and keep Googling everything you'd said to understand the background to what I needed to do.
Yeah.
But even from, experienced sewers, it's just really nice for them to sit, read, sew.
Yes.
In a relaxed way. And we do try and make our patterns as visual as possible.
We do recommend that you read the pattern through first.
Absolutely, with a brew preferably, and a biscuit. Just
so that you've got an idea of what's involved, and you've got a better understanding as you go through it.
Absolutely.
Now you've got your cutting chart and unpicking chart. Now you might be thinking, unpicking, what are you on about? It'll come, it'll come. You've got block 1 and block 2. The only difference between block 1 and block 2 is that you cut an extra 4 3/4 inch piece off your strip. So I'm going to do block 2 just because I can show you the full amount. You're going to need to straighten up the one edge. Now I always line it up with one of my sewn seams on the fabric, rather than the edge, because this edge could be a little bit wobbly, what with pressing and everything else. So you can see there, even if I line that up with the mat, there's quite a bit of difference in those edges there.
Yeah.
So cut off the minimum that you have to, so that you don't waste any fabric, but you're going to have a little bit of wastage there.
Yeah. And then you get that lovely smug moment where you've got a beautiful straight edge.
Yeah. So what you could do is you could unpick that part, and you could use that with the colours on, just to remind you which one's fabric 1 and which one's fabric 10.
Lovely. You could write that. You could write that on the white part of the selvage, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
I think if you're doing this for the first time, having it numbered really helps.
Claire Angelina says, you'll remember, Jane, that I put a partial Bargello into my big fish-themed quilt to emulate the river current, all thanks to your demos.
Yeah, it looked beautiful.
And Chris Cresswell says, I find your patterns really easy to understand, and I haven't been quilting for very long. You and me both, Chris. I've been quilting, 2018 I took my first class.
Yeah.
But I literally just stuck to pre-cut squares going into very basic lap quilts. And then I started working with Jane a couple of years ago now, isn't it? Coming up for.
Yeah.
And yeah, she pushed me to try lots of different things, and she makes the difficult, or seemingly difficult, actually very simple. So yes, you and me both. Her patterns make it accessible to all.
So following your chart, you've got the sizes of the strips to cut. So So we start off with the wider one, just move that out of the way slightly, then go to the next size. If you're using a Creative Grids ruler, just make sure you've got it without the extra 1/2 inch piece on the side. I just had to remember to turn mine around.
Oh, because is it a 1/4 inch built in? You haven't you? Yeah.
Just cut that through. Make sure you've got a nice sharp rotary cutting blade.
Oh,
might be worth putting a fresh one in for this.
Yes. And you should change those blades regularly, shouldn't you?
Absolutely.
And yet we keep going.
We keep going, don't we? We just keep doing it, just hoping that it's going to...
I changed mine not all that long ago because I jumped on the cutting desk here to cut something and this blade just glided through the fabric. And I thought, mine doesn't do that. Got home and changed my blade and I thought, honestly, it's like trying to cut fabric with a butter knife. What have I been doing to myself?
This is
terrible.
What happens.
Terrible.
This is absolutely what happens.
Oh, look, this is so satisfying.
So you're just working your way down the strip, following the cutting chart. You will see that it starts off wide, it goes narrower, and then it goes back to being wide again. Fabulous. And by the time you've cut your 4th set, because you're going to do exactly the same with all of them, but what I suggest is that you cut 1 block at a time. Yeah. Do it 1 block at a time. You'll start to know which is which and where you're going with it.
You know though, Jane, with this technique, it's so clever because you look at that quilt behind you and you can't see how it's done. You can't, I mean, for a lot of people who've never done a Bargello or seen it done, you just think, you've got to cut all these tiny little pieces, big, small rectangles and all over the place, and then fiddly piece them together afterwards. But you've done your piecing with strips. It's just so clever.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Now,
Chris says, I'm getting it. Clever.
Yes. Yeah. So now you need your unpicker. Now, I didn't check that there was an unpicker in here.
Oh, okay, good.
That's
Inga, are you listening? Because if we don't have one, we might just have to get you to pop to Jane's workroom and grab one from there.
Just check on the trolley because there's all sorts of things on Tasha's trolley normally.
There are, and then every now and again Tasha's working on a project and takes a few bits with her, so she might have it.
I've got one.
If not, we'll hope. Have you got one?
Yeah, I might just. I don't know. Hope this packet wasn't allocated.
Well, if it was, it's not now.
It's not an unpicker, but it'll work.
Excellent.
Right, glasses. So on your chart here, it tells you to unpick between 3, the top fabric number 5 and top fabric number 4. This is to get your swirl. Mm-hmm. I can use this, it'll be fine.
Could you get me an Inspira seam ripper actually, so we can show everybody those? Thank you, darling, that'd be perfect. I'm actually thinking, Jane, that it'd be really good to show the Inspira seam ripper because it is, you know, one of those things you receive and it looks like a surgical implement, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just realised I've cut this strip here too big. That's fine, it was just 1 inch too big, so I can keep that inch for my next block because I need inches in them.
Good.
You get to know, as I say, you get to know when you've cut whether it's too big or not.
It's always good to try and do something whilst talking, isn't it, Jane?
It's always helpful. Always helpful.
At home, you'll be paying attention and not gabbing on to the wider world.
On this one I've done, I'm just going to unpick between 10 and 1. This is my first strip. And this is because I wanted on the wildflower, the red, to come from the bottom corner going round. This was just my way of doing it slightly differently. So this is the only difference. Everything else in the pattern is exactly the same. It's just my unpicking is different. Now if you want to follow the unpicking chart and do it between 4 and 5, sorry, that's perfectly fine. And you can follow the chart and I'll tell you where it changes on the chart as well. Because on the chart, and you'll notice that when you get your pattern and you look at it, you go so far in one way. So between 5 and 4, and then between 6 and 5, and between 7 and 6. And then once you get to the middle piece here, you come back down again, and that's what gives you the swoop effect. It goes like that on your pattern.
Hang on,
Like
show me the
so.
swoop again.
That swoop
I've come
effect.
back so we can see you from the front now.
So that's this bit here. You can see here you've got the wide part going up to the narrow, 3 narrow strips there, and then back to the wide.
Lovely.
So what you do when you're unpicking is you unpick so far, and then you come back down. And it's all in the chart there, and it's easy to follow.
Fabulous.
So I've got my chart there. So you can see now, I've got a bit of salvage there, but that's all right, that'll disappear into the seam. So that's fabric 1, and that's fabric 10, or fabric 1, and that's fabric 10, whichever way you want to label your strips.
Okie dokie.
So now I need this to start moving up 1. So taking my strip, I'm now going to make, I'm going to unpick between 10 and 9, just on here.
This is one of those lovely things you could sit.
Now the
and
beauty
twiddle
of
with,
this
isn't it?
is, as you're laying it out, you start to see the pattern forming. And the other beauty of this is, if you unpick the wrong one,
Yeah.
you've only got a very small seam to sew back up,
Yeah,
and go back
absolutely.
and unpick it. So it's not the end of the world if you get the wrong one, and you can see it. This is also lovely because you can then start to see, if you don't like the way the colours are going, you can sew it back up and unpick it at a different point.
Clever.
Because you might want to have, or you may have changed it round so that your oranges are sitting in the middle anyway, or your reds. So we then take it, we've got fabric 10 there, fabric 9, so we're now going to unpick between 9 and 8. And it's quite therapeutic doing this.
This is some
unpicking.
special kind of wizardry this week, Jane.
It just
and
gives
yet,
you a lovely effect.
So long as you're paying attention, it is. It's deceptively simple.
It is. So you can start to see that the fabrics are just moving up 1 each time.
Oh, that colourway is going to look stunning.
So now we go from 10, 9, 8. We're going to pick between 8 and 7. It's very good television, isn't it? Watching somebody just unpick bits of seam.
Absolutely.
You're going to end up with lots of threads everywhere, so it's probably a good idea to have a little thread catcher with you.
It's a nice job though, this. It's one of those that you could just sit very peacefully.
So now we're going to go, we've got 10, 9, 8, 7. So we're going to go and unpick between 7 and 6 on this one.
My tummy's rumbling, Jane. Can't have that happen, can we? Sorry if anyone heard
Breakfast time. And then between 6 and 5. Now you can see that the strips are now starting to get narrower. And we're coming up to the point where you make the decision as how you want your pattern to go. So we've got 5 and 4. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Chris is saying it's so brilliant to have a video tutorial together with this pattern.
Well, this is always the beauty of this. And
Yeah.
I was actually, ironically, and this sometimes happens when you, because I help out with customer service, and there was an email this morning saying, I've got the Bargello kit, I can't find the demonstration. Can you find when you did this, please? So I looked, and if you go into the product, so like I went into the pattern, it actually tells you when it was demonstrated if you scroll right down.
It does.
So it was the 12th of May 2021.
It was.
When we did the original.
Yep. And that product page has now been updated to say...
Yeah. And it'll have today's
date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it will show you now both ways of doing this.
Yes.
So you'll have the original way to get the curve that swoops, which is rather lovely. And you'll get this one, which gives you the sort of, it's almost like an S shape, isn't it? An elongated S shape.
Brilliant.
So now I'm just going to unpick this seam here. Now on your pattern, this is the point. This is your middle strip. So this is the point where you'd start coming back down if you were doing the original pattern.
Okay.
So you get this far and then you start coming back again. So you'd want that strip to be the same on this side and that one. So that's another visual point. You can look at the fabrics on this side and look at them.
Yeah.
And they mirror that one. So that's how you get the swoop.
Marvellous.
And it's all in that pattern there. But for this one, I was like, I wonder what happens if you just carry on going up. So
this is what happens.
This is how I got the pattern that you see behind me. So we're just unpicking this one. And so now you can see that that fabric is now at the top.
Great.
And so each one, so it'll be the orange at the top next.
Philippa says, it is magic. I just think what a great pattern that you can make two completely different looking quilts using that same technique.
Yeah,
very,
absolutely.
very clever. Very clever. James says, I made a chair quilt using blue batik as a Bargello.
Oh, I bet that looks stunning.
Yeah. Oh, and Chris says, even that half is pretty in itself, even if you didn't come down the sweep again.
Yeah. Well, this carries on up now, and this is what gives you that sort of S shape.
She's right, you know, though. Just that made into, say, a quilt, cushion front.
Cushion front like that.
Great, wouldn't it?
Gives you a lovely effect.
Really great.
So we can see now. Can you see what I've done here? I've unpicked the wrong seam.
Ah, okay.
So all
On
I
purpose,
do
of course,
is I put it back together.
Yep.
And it's a very straightforward, quick, because it's only short.
Yep.
Seam to sew back up, sew it back into your tube, and then unpick the right one.
So Jane, this technique here, if you've had a jelly roll kicking around, for example.
Yeah, you can work it with a jelly roll.
You
It's
have a
beautiful.
play with that, couldn't you?
The thing that you might find with your jelly roll is that you may have different fabrics.
Yes.
Sometimes jelly rolls have two fabrics the same,
They
sometimes
do.
they don't.
Mm-hmm.
But what you can do is you can go with the colour.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use different fabrics but in the same colour effect. My very first Bargello I'd got a jelly roll and I did it and I just chose 4 colours that were in the same tone.
Nice.
So it looks lovely. It still works.
Ah, great.
So we're carrying on now. We've got the rose at the top there, and then we're coming back to having the dark one at the top. We're just carrying on, just unpicking, basically going round the tube and unpicking at each one as we go.
Quite hypnotic.
So instead of coming back down, yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of coming back down, we're just going up. We keep going up and up and up and up. And then I was like, when I'd done this, I did the two blocks. So I did block 1 and 2, and I joined those together. And I was like, well, how am I going to get that swoop to carry on? Have I got to move it along one, or has it got to be different? And actually, no, you do it exactly the same. You make your 2 blocks, 2 sets of blocks exactly the same. And when you sit them on top of each other, you get that effect.
Very clever, Jane.
So there's no changing the blocks, because I wasn't worried I would have to rewrite the pattern, but I thought, we're going to have to re-look at the pattern and redo the unpicking chart and all of that. But no. The only difference with the unpicking chart is that once you get to the middle one, the 1-inch one, and you can see it on the chart that it comes back down exactly the same, you just ignore that and you just carry on going up.
Sure. Oh, it's great. Love it.
And it's quite something quite satisfying about unpicking seams.
Yeah.
So that goes there.
I think a lot of us would look at this and say, I have no idea how that happens, you know, how that technique is produced.
Yeah.
So, you know, it would be a bit of a wowie one for a non-quilter to look at. If we're sat here going, well, that looks complicated.
Well, this is it.
And a non-quilter is going to be very impressed with this one.
I mean, I know that I've done this technique quite a few times, but I actually got the top done in a day. I mean, this is my job and I do it like 8 hours. I stop for lunch and that's what I do. But this is definitely, you'll get the top made in a weekend.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It's not complicated, and once you've done that first block and you've got your unpicking, and you'll get your pattern, and you can write all over your pattern. You can, make notations on it and write down your colours and all sorts of things like that, just to make it your own. But there you can see that now. You can see how that goes up, and it comes here and it goes up.
Very clever.
So now we're going to sew these together, and we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did when we were sewing the strips. We're going to sew them together in pairs. Now, if you remember, I told you about ironing your seams one way and then the other.
Yes.
Now, these seams lock into each other.
Oh, I do love it when we get a
go
lock-in
close up
seam.
on that, Jem.
Yeah, of course.
So we can see you've got them, those ones going out, but these ones on this side go in. So you've got that nestling point there.
They click, Jane.
They do. They click together. So when you come to sew them, all your points will match beautifully.
Brilliant.
And it's rather satisfying.
Yeah, it is though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the first time I was shown how to sort of nest seams, I got very excited.
And the thing is, I mean, you may feel that when you're doing this for the first time, that you want to pop a pin in along the seams, and that's perfectly fine.
Nothing wrong with that at all, is there?
But you don't need to when you've got your seams locking like this.
Oh, marvellous, marvellous. Now, Vicky's asking, if you were to use the new ombre rainbow fabrics with the original pattern and turned it upside down, would you end up with rainbows, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, you would. That would look rather beautiful, wouldn't it?
What you can also do as well with the curve is you can turn the two sets facing into each other.
Yeah.
So you get like...
I'm going to just show you. She's doing this.
I'm waving in the air.
Yes. So we have a whole load of charades going on.
You've got your curves that go like this.
Yes.
With the original.
Yes.
But what you can do, instead of putting them on top of each other so you get that swoop going, you can turn them so they face into each other, so the swoops go like that.
Oh, wow. No, that would be beautiful
you can turn them the other way so they go like that.
Oh.
So you've got options there as well.
Loads.
So once you've made your 4 blocks, just lay them out and turn them around and see what effect you get, because you can get some really lovely effects that way as well.
I love that with a quilt, when you've got your blocks and you turn them and just see how it would change the overall look of the quilt.
That's one of the things that I fell in love with patchwork the most, is because you can create something completely different just by turning your block around, or even the units within your block.
Yeah.
And my teacher, Chris, she was forever encouraging me, because I would be like, well, what happens if you do? And she was like, do it and see what happens. You know, if you don't like it, you either unpick it or you put it back the same way as it was. If you like it, you leave it and you carry on.
Yeah.
Nobody knows, other than you, what you were originally supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
And you might like that effect even more.
Yeah. No, exactly.
So I strongly suggest that, particularly when you're doing your first block, that you do 2 and you pop them back in place, just to make sure that you've still got your swoop going. It just helps to eliminate. It's very easy to pick, particularly when you get to the narrow ones, to pick it up and sew down the wrong side.
So you're pairing these again.
So just sew them together in pairs, and again, sewing them together in pairs just prevents, particularly because when you get to the narrow ones, it's very easy to pull the seams and your stitching to come undone. They won't come undone. You cut through your stitching, but you're going to be sewing across it anyway, so it's not going to come completely undone. No. But you have to be careful that you don't pull it. Yeah. Because it can bow your seam.
Yes. Absolutely. Chris is saying I was, as a newbie quilter, she's saying that she would have to pin it and nest every seam, and that's absolutely fine.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You know, if that's
I tend not to do it because
with.
I'm always in a bit of a hurry.
No, Jane has to get on. We set her challenges of making many quilted things, so she has to get on. But take your time over it, you know.
I'm not going to lie, I'm not a beginner quilter anymore.
No.
It took me quite a while to realise that.
I think everyone at home will be laughing at the idea of Stitchy Witchy Jane being a beginner quilter. I'm just going to go to the overhead and let everyone see how that's coming together. Look at this.
It's
beautiful. So you've got 2 paired strips there, haven't you, now?
And so we're just working our way through.
Yes, there's a lot of laughter going on in the comments now at the idea of you only just realising that you're not a beginner anymore, Jane.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Oh dear.
But there's still things I don't know, and there's still things I'm learning, because we learn all the time, don't we?
Of course, absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, you know, that's the beauty of it. It's like there's always something different to try,
of course,
and a new technique to learn.
It's part of the reason we love the community we've got going on here as well, because we will have people post things in the comments and say, you know, I did this instead, and actually this worked really well. And you know, we're never too big or experienced to learn from others.
And another thing that I learned quite early on with my patchwork, and there's more than one technique.
There is.
You know,
there is.
You can get the same effect quite often using different techniques.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Absolutely.
You know, there's nothing.
But what method, you know, the method that may suit one person may not suit another.
Exactly.
And again, that's fine. It's the end result that matters, and the enjoyment of the process.
Absolutely.
You know, this is supposed to be something we enjoy.
Yeah. You know, there's nothing wrong. If you want to do it by hand, you can do it by hand. I've known people make a Bargello by hand stitching. It's quite tedious sewing the long strips together, but if that's how you enjoy doing patchwork, it's perfectly fine.
Absolutely, of course. And I've spoken to quite a few people who say, well, I like to hand sew everything. Fine, you can do, you know, the majority of the makes that we put out there, of course you can hand sew them.
I know hand sewers that can sew as quickly as you can do it on machine.
Wow.
Because that's what they do, and they've got a technique that sews quickly. And
incredible.
You know, it's incredible to watch them.
Really incredible. Chris is saying that it's a great idea to play with this Bargello technique, and that there was a circle one on display at a quilt show which she loved.
Yeah.
Really beautiful technique.
There are some really fancy ones out there that have got several colours swooping one way and another. I haven't quite worked out the technique for that, but the principle of Bargello is the same, and I'm pretty sure it's all to do with the colour placement.
Intriguing, isn't it? But
there's books of different Bargellos that will give you all sorts of different techniques.
That's the beauty of quilting, isn't it? There's going to be techniques that you will learn and add to your repertoire throughout your quilting life. You know, it's a
beautiful craft, I think.
Yeah, it really is.
In so much as there's so many different styles and ways of doing things. You know, you can be quite traditional. I'm not going to lie, I'm quite a traditional patchworker. I love the classic traditional blocks. I love the smaller, ditzier prints that give you a colour rather than a pattern. That's not to say that I don't like the big, bold, modern quilts as well. You know, you can see something and you like it. I love a bit of applique.
Yeah. Actually, your applique projects are really popular every time we do one. But again, you know, having all these different techniques just keeps your interest in your craft really fresh, doesn't it?
Also, you know, even with applique, there's so many different styles of applique that you can use.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
You could go on for quite a while making different styles of applique quilt.
Oh, well, we only have to look to the Lisa Chandler Baltimore quilts for that. You know, Natasha's done fabulous things with the Baltimores.
The new one is so pretty. There's a lot more techniques to learn with that one, isn't there?
And then each month you're growing and developing.
Yeah,
and
this is it. And you do it a month at a time.
Yeah.
It's not so overwhelming, is it?
No.
You can just take your time each month to just master that technique.
And we do have people who will learn a technique there and then they'll go to work on a different project and say, oh, do you know, I could use that technique that I learnt in whichever month it was at the Baltimore. Yeah. And they send pictures through. Actually, you know, James has said he's posted something to Natasha's page. If you go onto the Natasha Makes website, so natashamakes.com, we've got the Community Makes page. And for those of you who do create something and you want to share it with us, we'd love to see it on the Community Makes page. Similarly, you might be looking for some inspiration, guys. Go on there, have a look, see what all the other makers in our wonderful community are making. And you'll get loads of great ideas. It's a really lovely place.
If you're doing block 1, this is the point where you stop. You'll have...
Let me just go into overhead and have a proper look at what you're showing.
You'll have 6 sets of pairs.
Wow.
That's block 1. And you're going to sew those pairs together in 4s. But with block 2, you're going to have that extra strip. So I suggest you just sew that onto the last pair to make that a 3.
Lovely. That's great.
As I say, there's quite a lot of straight line stitching in this. Just losing the foot. It's just decided to disappear under the table.
No probs.
Walks away, doesn't it?
It does. It runs. It runs from you.
So funny, because you end up going like this eventually. Like,
well, exactly. Jenny Totterdale says, if I had to hand sew, I'd have given up after the first quilt.
Well, this is it. It's not for everybody, is it?
Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And there's people that haven't got time. They just haven't got the time to be sitting and hand sewing. But then there's other people, and I'm included in this. I've got a little hand sewing project in my bag for when I'm just sitting, waiting. I used to be when I was waiting for children that were swimming, or you know, they were at football practice or whatever, and I just have a little bit of hand sewing in my bag that I could just, because it's very portable, that I could just do either sitting in the car or sitting on the sideline while I was waiting.
Now Chris makes a very interesting point. She says it would be lovely in a monotone range, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It really would. And the other thought about this is you could produce something out of some lovely planes that all coordinate, couldn't you, Jane? You know, it's...
we were just talking about the ombres. You know, if you use an ombre of colours with the ombres, so like we've got those beautiful teals that are just behind us.
Yes.
You have those, and they ombreed as well in the middle.
Yeah.
It would create a stunning effect. Yeah. So we're just going to now sew these pairs together. And you don't have to think too much about whether you're going to sew them from the top or the bottom. They're not going to move around too much now.
No more banana-ing.
So you can carry on.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
It makes it easier to handle the weight of the fabric, because you're creating a piece of fabric, basically. If you sew it together in pairs and then sew the pairs together, you've got less weight under your machine, dragging it. As I say, you know, you've got open seams at the end of each piece, so the weightier it is, it can start to come undone, which can also sort of offset your points slightly. But it also helps if you do it in pairs and then sew pairs together, you're putting it back each time into place, and that makes sure that you're still within your pattern choice.
I find you press more consistently as well when you're pairing it somehow.
Absolutely.
It just seems to sit better. Yeah, Claire likes a plain or slightly patterned fabric for a Bargello.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's your preference, of course.
I think because you're working in quite small prints, and I chose prints that were small and gave more of a colour definition rather than a pattern. You've got quite tiny pieces in that middle piece, so it's quite, not fiddly, but you've got to be careful with it because you've only got a very small seam. And it's a sort of seam. It might be an idea to just make your stitch length a little bit shorter than you would do normally. Only by a couple of notches. You're not talking like tiny like you would do with your foundation piecing, but just a little bit tight, you know, smaller, so it's less, there's more stitches per inch, as it were.
Yeah. Oh. Claire Angina saying she took crochet with her to the theatre to do during the interval. She'd made small portable balls with that all packed up in Ziploc bags, Jane.
Yeah.
She sat down in her seat, realised her set of crochet hooks was at home.
Oh.
Best laid plans and all that.
Yes, we've all done that.
We've all left a really integral part at home, haven't we?
Absolutely.
And then cursed quite a bit.
The times I've had to go to a local shop, you know, I've taken sewing with me and I've had to go to a local shop and find a pair of scissors because I always forget my scissors.
Scissors is always the thing.
Or the pack of needles.
Yeah. No, I've bought scissors more times than I can count.
But fortunately, because you do hand sewing, you don't have to think about remembering your sewing machine. Because I'm the sort of person that would forget her machine.
I tell you, the thing that I have lost more of than anything, and I own many, is tape measures. Every time I need a tape measure, I know I own so many of them, and I can never place my hand on them. It's funny, isn't it? They run and hide from you, Jane.
Pressing this so that the seams run again like they did when we were joining the just with these narrow ones, just because it seems to sit flatter. So I don't know if you can see on there.
Here, shall I go into the overhead and you can perhaps show everyone on the overhead?
See that those ones press in and those ones are out, just because it seems to lie better. It doesn't really matter how you press your seams at this point. You could do it so that they go in and out like you did before.
I suppose though, if you went in towards like that thinner part, you'd end up with a bulky thinner strip in the middle, wouldn't you?
It actually works. I don't know if we can see here, because it's an inch and you're working with a 1/4 inch. They actually butt up to each other, so there's no overlap there. So they do sit nicely together. So I just get these ones on, and then it's just 2 more seams. It's a bit like watching paint dry, isn't it? Watching people
Not at all, because we're looking at this building up, Jane, and the indigos, the oranges, the pinks, and that beautiful golden tone as well. It's just looking lovely together.
It is. It's a beautiful pattern. Now, what you can do, I used my offcuts in the original one to make an extra border. But what you can do, I found, is with the offcuts, you can actually get, if you're very careful with your cutting, you can get 2 more blocks.
Oh, right.
So you can get a total of 6 blocks altogether. So if you were going to do, like the sample I've done, just do a binding on it, you would have a bigger one.
Lovely.
So that's something else to think about as well.
Can't argue with a bigger one, Jane. I think that's great.
Absolutely. Because that's a nice lap size one, but if you made a bigger one, it would fit on a single bed under the pillow.
Marvellous.
This is a nice one that, you know, would be nice for a student to have.
Really nice.
Take with them. Looks complicated and
it does, but it looks contemporary, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's quite modern.
It's not.
I'm going to sew that.
It's not a very traditional looking quilt that a teenager would sort of pull a face at. This is something that's really funky and
you know, if you did it in rainbows or ombre, it's a nice modern, fun quilt to have, but it's still a bit of a hug from home.
Definitely. Yeah, you keep saying it must be like watching paint dry. Elizabeth Krangle says, no, Jane, it's great watching a professional at work. I agree. I get to do this all the time. I feel very lucky.
Bless her.
Very lucky. Oh, Kirsty Robson says, I had to buy scissors when we went away this year. I'd made up an emergency sewing kit to take on holidays, only to get there and find that I'd not put scissors in it. Oh well, they're there now and I won't take them out. I've done the same thing. I have got a caravan kit that is my sewing kit for when I go in the caravan. Yeah,
I think we do, don't we? We have sets wherever we are.
Yeah. Vicky's asking how many different fabrics were there again, please. Vicky, for the Bargello technique, you need 10 different fabrics.
10 fabrics, yeah.
Jane was saying sort of 30 centimetres / 12 inches of each, because you will need to cut 4 2.5-inch strips. Is that right, Jane?
That's correct.
Hey, so there you go.
if you bought a long quarter, it might just not quite be enough. You might come to your last strip and it might only be 2 1/4. So,
but if you were looking to
buying,
do plains,
you know, if you're able to go to your local quilt shop, if you're not buying our kit, if you've missed out, they will probably cut you a 30 centimetre piece.
But if you wanted to have a go at making this in an economical way with our plains, for example, Jane,
half a metre piece,
half a metre of each. Those are say £3.99 each, aren't they? Times 10. So for less than £40, you could get your Bargelloing fabric. You'd have loads left over to add to your plain stash.
Well, you could make more blocks,
or you could make more blocks,
make it bigger, and
practice that technique that way. And then it was 1.25 metres that we'd put in for the sort of sashing and what have you around.
I put it in so that you could, if you wanted to, you could make the original with the extra borders.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing worse if you buy a kit and you get a pattern and actually the fabric doesn't match.
No. But for those of you, you know, who wanted to, say, buy a kit and get your set of instructions today, like we've said, you're going to have so many different ways of putting this together. This is going to be a really brilliant way to dive into your stash and pull out 10 fabrics that would look great together.
Yeah,
so we've all got those stashes, haven't we?
Absolutely.
So to be able to pull out 10 fabrics that you could Bargello with, it's going to be perfect. I'm going to come and get that for you, Jane, because it just went flop straight off the edge of the desk.
Pushed it off with the sewing.
Sorry about the lack of change of camera angle there. I had to go and retrieve
the stuff that I threw across the room.
No one needed to see the back of my head as I came over and bent over to pick that up. So, look at that.
That is block 2.
Wow.
Now,
I'm going to go into overhead, everybody, don't fret. There we are. Look. Jane, that would make a fantastic, massive pillow as well.
This is the start of block 1. I just was a bit short of a couple of strips. I'm just going to come round and grab that. Did it come out? The scrappy piece.
Oh, is that the piece of fabric there? Look.
That's it.
I didn't see fabric fall. I just saw the instructions. Sorry, Jane.
So there's just... let me just measure this piece.
Chris is saying, how many half metres would you need if you didn't buy the kit? You need 10 different fabrics for the Bargello. Is that right, Jane?
Yes. You could do it in sets of 5.
Okay.
So you get a different effect again. So if you bought a half metre of 5 fabrics, you could get it out of that.
But what you've done here uses 10 different fabrics.
10 fabrics. So I was just short of a couple of strips on this one, so I'm just going to cut those, and then it's just one actually because it's block 1. So you can see I was able to get, I'm going to show you in a moment, this one, that one I've cut from the first strip set. This piece here was an offcut from a second 2 sets. So you do your strip sets, block 1 and block 2, and you're going to have your offcut bit, which is this piece.
Okay.
So from those 2 offcut bits, I was able to get that out of it.
Oh, clever.
So I'm just 1 strip short, which I'm just going to
Jane,
unpick
these
and
offcut
get it.
bits that you get though, you could make all sorts of panels and things to be, say, makeup bags, or lots of smaller items.
Cushions to go with.
They'd make a beautiful makeup bag though, wouldn't they?
Something they would, like that. Bag fronts.
Or a bag front, general bag front.
Absolutely. And if you do it in the original where it comes up and comes back down again, it's a real focal point.
I'd love actually to see a lined tote bag in this. I think that'd be great.
Yeah,
amazing
shopping
stunning,
bag, wouldn't it?
Something like Natasha's beach bag.
Oh yeah,
be brilliant.
Absolutely stunning.
Really brilliant.
So I'm just going to sew that strip onto there, and then you will see block 1 and block 2. So block 1 basically is the same, but without that piece on, and it becomes clear why that why you do one without one piece on and one with the other. Got to make sure my pieces are the right way. Okay.
Elizabeth Crangle says, I'd like to see the rest of the dragon. I can see his tail. Do you know? She's right. Look at that orangey pinky bit. I don't know whether you can get that, Jane, from where you are, but that swoop coming up does look like an amazing dragon's tail. Yeah. Brilliant.
It's got a real sort of fire to it, hasn't it, this one?
You see, I see a tentacle, because that blue that comes underneath there with the speckledy bits, that looks like a octopus tentacle to me.
Now,
brilliant.
There's a slight error in this.
Or if you need to swoop it round.
No, it's not going to work. What you need to do, this is a point in fact, you'll make block 1, and then when you come to do block 2, you'll make sure that your strips follow it through. Okay. That's the bit I missed.
Oh, look.
So that will go like that.
Wow.
So if I did it properly, if I'd done it properly, it would look like that.
Oh my gosh, those colours are beautiful.
So you can see this is block 1.
Yeah.
And then this is block 2. And what I've done is I've followed it. I made block 1, and then as I was unpicking, I followed it through to make sure it's sat properly. So you make 2 the same. And as I said to you, it really is simply a case of making 2 the same, and then you'll place them on top of each other.
Wow.
And you'll get the pattern following through. Just
so clever,
Jane. There, look. So when that joins to that, you can see how that goes if I move that way. What I can do with this one is I can sew it back into a tube and unpick it along the seam where it should be.
But for now, just give it a little layout, little creative layout.
It's similar to that. It's not quite right because I think it's just 1 block out. Might be 2. It might even be upside down. Which I think it is.
It is upside down. Yeah.
It's that way.
I can see. Yeah.
So that should be
1 block out
up there.
Yeah.
So it's just
those
2 top blocks there are in the wrong place.
But rather than unpick those 2 top rows and then stitch them down, you'd recreate the tube, would you?
I'd redo the tube. It's going to be a bit of seam unpicking, but I would unpick these seams.
So
and it would still be together then.
Okay.
So it's only a case of unpicking one
Pop
seam.
a little pin or a quilt clip there to remind you which one you're going to unpick once it's back in the tube, because the minute you've put it back in a tube, you'll forget where you're unpicking it from.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
So that would sit up there.
Great.
So the thing is to make block 1 and then cut your block 2 and then look at where it runs to know where you're unpicking it next to start. And once you've got that first one started, it's very easy then just to be unpicking one after each other.
They are just glorious colours,
it just gives you that.
Jane.
If I show you here.
What a beautiful finish that is.
Where I've put the two blocks together. I still think there's something going wrong here, but there's something around here that's not quite right. It should go there, I think. Anyway, that might be upside down. Nope, that's right. Anyway, I can see what I've done here. I've got the orange in a different place.
I just love the swoop of this. It's so pretty. But this is, again, why you label your fabrics, isn't it? 1 to 10. And there it is.
There it is.
There it is.
I just got it upside down.
Hang on then.
So there
Look
we
at
go.
your other block as well. Work all that out.
Don't know that this
That one still needs a twiddle.
No, that one still needs... That's still in the wrong place.
But
you know, you get the idea.
Oh, that looks gorgeous. Look. I'm a little bit in love with that fabric combination.
It gives a beautiful effect. The colours are absolutely stunning.
They really are. Vicky says, thanks both. I'm thinking of something tonal in the ombres. Love this idea, or the rainbow idea.
Yeah.
There's just so many different things that you can do with this particular pattern.
Yeah. The thing with, you've got block 1. This is block 1 to there. Yeah. And then block...
Shall we pull that across a little bit, Jane? I don't know if we can actually. Oh, maybe we can't. That middle joining piece. We've got the middle joining piece. We can, there we go. We can see a bit more of it there, can't we now?
But you've got block 1 will come to there, and then this is block 2. So that's where you get the swoop.
Very clever.
Because that
you can't quite grasp that is the same pattern that's created those two.
Just by following the chart. The chart here will give you the swoop. If you just follow the chart up to where it says 10 and 9, and you get to 1 and 10, when you get between 1 and 10, you carry on going again. So between 10 and 9, and then 8 and 9. So you carry on going, you don't come back down.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. It's the unpicking order that changes it.
And it's such a huge difference, a vast difference.
And it gives you sort of almost like a 3D.
Yeah, it does
effect,
have that, but it has more of a softness as well because it has that curve rather than a point. It's just lovely. Chris is saying it's so clever how it matches up and creates that swathe. It's it's a brilliant technique. It's really lovely. Oh, Jane, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Fingers crossed and all being well, assuming our tech starts behaving itself, because we've got a lovely tech guy that needs to come out and see us. We hope to be with you on Friday, everybody, for Pay It Forward.
Yes.
And Pay It Forward, for those of you who aren't familiar, where have you been? Pay It Forward is an initiative that was inspired by you, our viewers. It's something that we offer each month to do a charitable make, perhaps something that, you know someone who's having a bit of a bad time, you might make them something lovely and gift it to them. You might gift them a kit and say, there you go, have a fun time making that. Yeah. You might, all of you, get together and order kits and have a nice mental health wellness morning where you have coffee, cake and have a bit of a make. Or you might make to gift to a hospital, a charity, etc. Whatever it is, if it brings joy to another, if it serves somebody, even if it's just you that's feeling really sad and you want a nice project, that's what Pay It Forward is all about. It's a subsidised make that we do every month. And this month's Pay It Forward has been the vice versa quilt, hasn't it, Jane?
Yeah, I've got the vice versa quilt here if I want.
Oh, yeah, let's give it a little wave. That'd be lovely. This has been really, really popular. You'll have received your kits now if you've been buying this one this month.
That's the vice versa quilt.
There it is. Should we go into overhead and have a proper little look at it?
It's 2.5 metres of fabric.
It is. It's made from a half metre heaven. Yeah, it's a half metre heaven make. So, Jane, this is a simple make, isn't it, for people who...
it really is a really good beginner's one.
Yeah. And you'll demonstrate this technique in our Pay It Forward show, which, all things being well, will go out at 10 a.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
We will also then launch the next Pay It Forward, which is something that was promoted to me on social media. It tugs at my heartstrings a lot, and it's another really noble make. So please do keep your eyes peeled for that. SJ will pop out a newsletter, no doubt. We've got lots of hearts. There's a lot of love for the Pay It Forward. A lot of love for the Pay It Forward. Oh, James says quilting does reduce depression. Do you know, there's something beautiful about creating something and having that real sense of achievement and purpose, as well as the mindfulness that comes with sewing and creating in general, whether it be quilting.
The other thing I wanted to say about the quilting of the Bargello.
Oh, of course. Jane, I've run away with myself. We need to talk about the quilting, it's important.
It's really quite clever, again, how easy it is to quilt. Because you basically, you go diagonally through each square.
Oh, and then you get a curve.
And then it creates a curve.
Oh,
that is
Jane.
a straight line going diagonally through each square there, and it gives you the curve. I've gone through every other row, but you could do every row if you wanted to. And I've done the same on this one. The only difference is on this one, when I got to that point there, I just did a very gentle curve.
Clever.
All done with my walking foot, because you can do gentle curves with your walking foot. Yeah. So again, here I've started in the middle of the middle rectangle part, come down, and then it's a diagonal line through each square. And then when I get to this one, I just curve it slightly. If you want to get a dinner plate and draw around it, you can do that.
Well, that's super clever, isn't it,
And then
Jane?
straight through the diagonal. So again, for a beginner, the quilting on it is achievable.
I love this. I mean, you know better than anybody how many quilts I've pieced, sandwiched, and then not quilted, because I really do then start to go, I don't want to quilt it because it won't look as good, and you've said to me so many times, just cross hatch it through the diagonals like you're comfortable doing. That's effectively what you're doing here, but you're achieving that beautiful look to it.
Because they're different
sizes. Yeah.
The diagonal follows the curve. So that looks like it's got curved quilting in it, but actually it's straight lines.
It's brilliant. And Claire Angelina's just said this is a perfect example of curves being a series of small straight lines. We say it all the time. Yeah. And I'll sew curves, but I've not quilted a curve because I worry that I'm going to have inconsistent widths or that it's going to go wobbly. But with this, you are sewing from point to point. Oh, yes, please, because we'll see it better from the back, of course.
You can see.
Wow. Oh, well, doesn't that look grand?
You can see it's a sort of straight, but it gives you the effect you need, and it's a finished quilt. And it's
you clever old stick, Jane.
To finish it, isn't it?
It really is. It was really important just to get things made and finished.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, Gemma. I've got loads of bags of quilt tops because, like you, when I first did it, I loved making the patchwork, but I was scared of quilting.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to spoil it.
No, especially...
I spent a long time piecing it and I didn't want to ruin it by making a mess of the quilting.
Especially when you've pieced it and you look at it and you're like, those points are spot on and I'm so proud of it.
Yeah.
And then you just... I mean, I started quilting the one and went, don't like the quilting. Don't like it. No. Threw it to one side in a strop, brought it in here, threw it on the floor in front of you and went, don't like what I'm doing with it. And, you know, you are so lovely and patient, Jane. It's amazing. But with this one, at least, I know you're going to get that brilliant result just by going from point to point, which is, let's be honest, the most simplistic form of quilting.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Straight lines.
You're all right, boss. Fret you not. Just don't look too closely at the product pages. And on that note,
time to say goodbye.
If you haven't got your fantastic Bargello kit with free instructions, then perhaps get those quick before she spots it, and we'll hopefully see you Friday for Pay It Forward.
Yeah.
Lovely to be with you. Be good. If you can't be good, be creative. And goodbye. Give everyone a wave, Jane.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.